What's good, gamers? It's your boy, Stevie Blunder, back again with another deck profile. I haven't done one of these in weeks or months because I'm banned and I don't own cards anymore. But, anyways, I'm going to be bringing to you arguably my most favorite deck of all time. It's Zombies. Why do I like it so much? I just like how the whole thematic experience of just how the cards interact in the graveyard and how they all surround or play around the idea of zombie world. I just really like that overall playstyle and thematic theming. And for that reason, that's why I've always loved this deck. I already remember back in the days when Summon Sword was legal, if you had like Unizombie plus Glow Up Bulb, you could either like Baylor Drock plus like Naturia Beast and like two other negates all looping them for 4. It was crazy. But anyways, we're gonna be taking a look at Control Zombies. If you just want the list, screenshot this right now. Congratulations, you are now the best zombie player. But I'm going to be trying to go over my most in-depth analysis for as many cards as possible. So, what you should envision when you're playing this deck is you should envision entirely. This is just Salamangreat. You are just playing like a slightly different variant of Salamangreat. That instead of recurring trap cards, you're recurring Doom King, Balordrock, and sitting on a floodgate, aka Zombie World. Zombie World has always been one of those cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you just kind of read it and just like, oh yeah, this is probably going to like ruin a format one day, but nobody will ever play zombies. But we are. So we're just going to take a look at that. Just envision all of your plays as recurring Balordrock, setting up maybe 1 to 2 negates, and just trying to make as many consistent 2-for-1s or just being able to awkwardly fuck over your opponent's plays using cards like Jacobulin, Zombie World, of course, Ash Blossom, maybe cards that you are able to extend into, like Savage and Herald, and eventually just with this sort of game plan, just sort of overwhelm your opponent in advantage, and eventually you should be able to win. Very similar to Salamangreat, like I just said. So, let's go into the card by card. We're going to make this as in-depth as possible and try to explain all the ratios, etc., etc. And again, just pause the video, take a snapshot if that's all you came for. But if you want like the in-depth reasoning, I am more than happy to give it right now. So, we're playing Triple Zombie World. This is the lifeblood of the deck. The problem is we don't really want to see it in our hand that much, which is why we're not playing cards like Terraforming or Set Rotation or anything. Zombie World is a very powerful card. It turns everything on the field and in the graveyard into zombies, and neither player can tribute summon except for zombie type monsters. That latter effect virtually never comes up unless you're against like True Draco, in which this card is like an auto win. But Zombie World, the first effect is very powerful. DNA Surgery has always been like one of those cards where if it's not printed on a spell, like on Zombie World, it could just completely ruin someone's day. Like, for instance, a Dragon Link player or an Infernal player trying to make Izzle. So, Zombie World, we're playing 3. It is very important, but we have so many ways to access it that we don't need to play redundancy cards like Terraforming. Because Zombie World doesn't really do anything on its own. Zombie World on its own will not win you a game. Zombie World in combination with cards will win you games. Speaking of combinations of cards, we're on Doom King Balordrock as our main boss monster. Arguably the best main deck monster of all time regarding boss monsters. If there's a field spell in either player's field zones, that can include your opponent's boot sector launch, like if you're against Dragon Link, during the standby phase, it can special summon itself in defense mode. Now, when your opponent when a zombie's effect is activated, say just in general, like on the field, in the graveyard, in the hand, Ash Blossom, you can apply one of these effects, and you can only use each effect once per turn. Note that this does not mean you have to actively declare it. You are just applying one of the effects. So you do not. So if your opponent says like, "Oh, I'll activate," while Zombie World's on board, like they'll say like, "Oh, I'll activate Armageddon Knight." You can say, "I'll chain Balordruck," but that does not mean you have to directly declare which effect you are going to be using. You just say that I'm going to apply the effect to Balordruck. And you could just tell them on the resolution chain, "Oh, I'm going to be using the banish effect or the negate effect, etc., etc., etc." So one of the effects is negate the effect. You know, just good old negate, good old Borreload Savage. And the second effect is to banish one monster from the field or graveyard. This is non-targeting banish spot removal. This is very, very powerful. This is arguably the main way where you're going to be cleaning up boards and you're just going to be, just going to town. This card is cracked. Uh, we're playing 2 because Call by the Grave does exist as a card, and DD Crow. And yeah, it's the same reason why you run 2 UCT. Like it's always good to see, and it's searchable, but you never want to run 3 because that could just get very, very cloggy. But you run 2 because you genuinely want to see this card sometimes, but not all of the time. This is a card that you only want to open maybe half the time. It doesn't really matter whether you open it or not. So next we're playing 1 copy of Jacko Boolin. I remember when everyone thought that this card was going to be the most cracked card in the universe because it was just a free extender and a DD Crow, but it really didn't turn out to be that amazing. We're only playing 1 because it's searchable off of Glow Up Bloom. Spoiler, we're playing it. But Jacko Boolin offers a strange utility in the sense of, let's say that you've got a Baylor Jock, both Baylor Jocks in hand. You can discard the Baylor Jock from your hand to special summon the Boolin, go into maybe a Vampire Sucker, and that Doom King Baylor Jock is going to be set up in the graveyard for next turn. For, of course, the next standby phase, assuming you've got Zombie World or something on the board. And Jacko Boolin's effect, the DD Crow effect, you usually will only be using Boolin as an extender or just a way to pitch Baylor Jock out of your hand. But if you're able to just set up all your boards normally and you just have a Boolin, then that's just an extra piece of interaction that's very nice. But I definitely would not really play more than 1, in all honesty. Maybe 2, but we just don't have the space for it. And I like Boolin at 1. It's massively searchable and, good card. It's also fire for some reason. I didn't know that until I tried to resolve Chaos Ruler, and I added it, and they're like, you can't add that. That's a fire. And I was like, oh, shit. All right. So, on to the quote-unquote normal summons. Zombies is a deck where where its main weakness is it's got a lot of good normal summons. And by good normal summon, I mean Unizombie and cards that search Unizombie. The issue is that if you get impermed on these normal summons, you're kind of fucked. So that's why I've sort of built this deck with a philosophy of trying to balance extenders and your normal summons. But you may notice, but of course, we can't just cram in 50 extenders, of course, because otherwise we literally just be playing a bad combo deck that loses to Nibiru. And in that case, why not just play Dragon Link? So we're playing 6 normal summons. We're playing 3 Unizombie. This is easily the best card in the deck. It's a Foolish Burial and a discard from hand for cost. So we've got cards like Mizuki, Glow Up Bulb, Necro Banshee, all those sort of things. Yeah, Unizombie will just take care of that for you. Unizombie in itself usually represents the full combo, but sometimes you just won't open a zombie in hand or you won't open the proper extenders. It gets a bit iffy. Yeah, that's one of the issues about this deck is that it definitely does need extenders, but you have to sort of find that balancing act between extenders, hand traps, control cards, etc., etc. We got 2 Shiranui Solitaire. Shiranui Solitaire is basically just another copy of Unizombie, but it can also search Glow Up Bloom, and that's the only application it has. We're only playing 2 because it basically just serves the same the same purpose as Unizombie. It can just be Ash Blossomed. And we don't get a 1300 body on the board, so that's also pretty problematic. But it serves a dual purpose, and it's basically just extra copies of Unizombie and Glow Up Bloom. So that's why we just run it 2. We just don't want to overclog our hand with normal summons, and we run 1 Gozuki. If you're looking for cards to cut and to fill in, probably Gozuki is going to be one of those cards you're going to cut. It's just that during your main phase, Foolish Burial, and if it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish a zombie monster from your graveyard outside of itself to special 1 from hand. Keep in mind that second effect, it will come up in certain instances when you are playing this deck, during turns 3, turns 4, turns 5. Just always keep that effect in mind in case you're trying to go for that final push. And it can special summon any zombie, so it can include Baylor Jock if you did brick on it. But yeah, Gozuki is it's Foolish Burial. It's just Armageddon Knight, except slightly worse. Why aren't we just playing Armageddon Knight? Oh yeah, because it has the second effect. Yeah, Gozuki's alright. You play that 1 because we already have Unizombie, and we've already got so many normal summons. We don't want to clog up. And now we've got our Foolish Burial targets. Note that most zombie cards are kind of bad, so we don't really want to open them. which is why running them all at 2, because if we ran them at 1, we would be very sad when we got called by the grave on them. Running 2 Necroworld Banshee, this card can send banish itself from the field or the graveyard in order to activate Zombie World directly from your hand or deck. So no, it cannot be Ash Blossom. It's like Numeron Wall, but on crack. That effect is a hard once per turn, but you're going to be using this in instances just to either like get your Zombie World if you haven't hard drawn it. Usually you'll be sending maybe like Unizombie and Mizuki. With Unizombie, you'll be sending like Mizuki and Banshee, like in a best case scenario, so that like you can revive the Banshee. Then you could just link off Unizombie and Banshee for the Hulkify Rex, do all that stuff, and you'll have the Necroworld Banshee in graveyard in order to grab your Zombie World, which is going to be very nice. And another instance where this could actually be kind of relevant is with its quick effect. Now, you may already have a Zombie World on board, but in combination with Balerdrock, sometimes you just need to have your own way to trigger your Balerdrock on your opponent's turn. Like maybe they'll just like normal summon a Grand Maju with like 12 million attack and just like activate Banshee, chain link to Balerdrock. Like in those sort of instances, or just instances where you need immediate spot removal, or matchups where you will need immediate spot removal, keeping Banshee is sort of just like a loaded bullet in the graveyard can be very helpful. So just keep that in mind. Running 2 Mizuki, you can banish it, target a zombie in your graveyard, special summon it. Very powerful, sucks to open. So we play 2. 2 Glow Up Bloom. This card is very, very powerful. If it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish it for cost, and you can either add a level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to your hand, or if Zombie World's in the field zone, you can special summon it from your deck instead. But you are locked into zombies for the rest of the turn. Keep in mind that second effect. The effect that locks you into zombies. So obviously the most practical application is you're either going to be summoning Balerdrock from deck, or you're going to be adding like Jacko-Boolin to discard like Balerdrock or something like that. Be sure to keep in mind that you will be locked into zombies. It is very important that you sequence very specifically when navigating this deck, because obviously if you just immediately shotgun the Glow Up Bloom and you just end on Balerdrock, you're going to be looking at your hand of like quick launch and like all these rocket extenders. You're just be like, well, what do I do now? And as well, you can't special summon from the extra deck because that's kind of bad. So very powerful cards like Union Carrier IP, Hulkify Rex, these sort of cards you can't summon if you just immediately shotgun the Bloom. So just be sure to sequence these things in the proper order. And we play 2 because I want to see it sometimes and not all the time. So for our extender, we're on the Rocket Engine. I got suggested this by someone in chat, and I'm like, oh, that'd be kind of funny. So we are playing triple quick launch, the 1 boot sector to launch, of course, 2 Rocket Tracer, because if you open 1, you're kind of fucked, and the Rocket Recharger, because we do have dark monsters in our extra deck, so this does kind of have some application if we do open it. Okay, so zombies kind of always need to see a tuner. Like a tuner and an extender in order to even do anything. And I found that quick launch, in my opinion and personal testing, was the best application, because cards like Cockle-Doodle-Doo or maybe like Caligo Clawcrow, like these cards do act as extenders, but they're very limited in scope in what they can do outside of just they summon themselves, and that's kind of it. This does require a bit more main deck investment as well as a little bit of extra deck investment in the term of Striker Dragon, but I find that the plays that Rocket Tracer does open up are just incredible. There's a reason why this card is always run in virtually everything. Ban quick launch. 1 Foolish Burial. We're playing zombies, so and 1 Monster Reborn. It's just another extender. 1 Call by the Grave, because this deck loses to every hand trap under the sun. And 3 Rivalry of Warlords. Zombie World plus Rivalry plus Balerdrock is an FTK, essentially. One of the most notorious, just like locks in general, is just Zombie World plus Warlords. Like, honestly, this combination in itself will win you games 9 out of 10 times. Like, there are very little things your opponent can do to realistically out this. It's basically just the equivalent of your opponent is playing under Rivalry and Tikaboo, and that's not very fun to play against. I like MBT's philosophy regarding rogue decks, where if you are going to be playing rogue decks, you should be doing something inherently unfair or something that meta decks aren't doing in order to differentiate yourselves from playing meta or just being a worse meta deck. and I feel that the rivalry zombie world combination is very unfair and differentiates us enough to, just do this whole bullshit thing. So, hand traps. We're on 3 Nibiru because crossout designator doesn't exist yet. 3 Ash Blossom. It's not the best hand trap right now, mainly just because there are a lot of decks that can play through Ash Blossom very easily. The main reason why we're playing it is because it's a zombie. So if we discard Ash Blossom and we have a Baylor Drock on board, you can kind of see where this is going. 2 Infinite Permanents. I would be playing 3, but I don't have the space. Maybe I could cut the Gozuki, but I don't want to be too light on normal summons or play starters, which is sometimes an issue with this deck, where you just want to see your Unizombie or Shiranui, but sometimes you just won't have it. And finally, the one Garnet, but the most stupid card in this game right now, is Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. We are playing Union Carrier, of course. Just slap this onto a Baylor Drock and you're kind of fine. Like, honestly, like, not a lot of decks are getting over a 3,800 Baylor Drock with the Buster Lock and Zombie World. Not a lot of decks can realistically up that. Right, let's go to the extra deck. Playing the one Link Rebo, we're going to be using this almost entirely just to link off Glow Up Bloom. It's a dark, so we can special summon it even if we are under Tracer's dark restriction, which is very, very nice. We're on the Hauka Firebrax plus Link Cross stuff because kind of have to, because it's really, really good. We're on our generic zombie links. One Avenged Savior. He is a Foolish Burial for cost during the damage step to just beat over things. He's not the best card, but you'll find making him is actually is pretty beneficial in a lot of cases. But he's definitely not like a turn 1 play. He's definitely like a going second card, like a card you'll want to make going second, or like maybe turns 3, turns 4, where you're just trying to keep accumulating resources, summoning more and more Baylor Jocks, sending more and more Necroworld Banshees for bullets, sending more Mizukis, all that sort of good stuff. We're on the Vampire Sucker. She is very cute. She has 2 effects. She has 3 effects, actually. She is a Monarch's Storm for zombies. I don't know why she has this effect, but I guess because vampires are like level 6 monsters, like it's relevant sometimes. But the main effect why we're using her, outside of her just being good arrows and zombie, is because if a zombie monster is special summoned from either graveyard, you can draw a card. Now this effect is very practical in the case of where you could just draw with Mizuki. You could like Mizuki banish, draw 1. And obviously the most practical, most standard application you're going to be using this for is for Baylor Drock during the standby phase, in which you'll be using it to draw 1. However, keep in mind that the effect activates on the resolution of the summon. So let's say you do summon Baylor Drock, Vampire Sucker will trigger to draw 1, and Baylor Drock can be used in case you want to banish something on the board. It also does have that shitty second effect where you can special 1 from your opponent's graveyard. I guess if you want to, if you really need the draw, or you're just trying to trigger like Baylor Drock, sure, I guess. It's not the best effect, but it serves its purpose. It helps us generate resources and advantages in the form of card advantage in our hand, and I find that to be very, very nice. But not nice enough to be running 2, because extra deck space is very, very tight. We're on 1 Nightmare Phoenix and 1 Nightmare Unicorn. These are pretty self-explanatory. One main problem you will notice with this deck is that we kind of don't have a main deck out to Mystic Mine, so let's just move on. One Union Carrier. Union Carrier is going to be serving 2 purposes. You either equip 3 purposes. You either equip Mizuki, you equip Necroworld Banshee, or you equip Buster Law. Because Necroworld Banshee can attribute itself while it is equipped, or banish itself while it is equipped, because rulings and stuff. So in case like very, very, very pinch scenarios where you are unable to get your Baylor Drock, your Zombie World, you can Union Carrier for the Necroworld Banshee. Just equip it onto Baylor Drock and then just send it away. Do your thing. We're on the 1 IP Masquerena because this deck is very main deck and not very link focused. This deck is not very link focused, so IP into Unicorn just obviously a very powerful combo. And we're always going to usually have enough cards in hand to just discard things, cards like Vampire Sucker, and just the nature of the deck itself. We're going to be accumulating lots of advantage through hand size. And of course the 1 Striker Dragon, just because rocket shenanigans. We're on one Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Demonic Dragon. Oh, the Chaotic Magical Dragon, because demons are not allowed in America, apparently. Um, it mills 5 and it adds 1. Like, I don't know what else to say outside of it mills 5. Like, Rocket Tracer is a 1 card Chaos Ruler. Honestly, just like milling, like, Necroworld Banshees, Mizukis, Glow Up Blooms. Like, honestly, just milling any of these cards will probably just win you the game on the spot. So yeah, as well as it's got a big booty and recurs itself, which is very very nice. One Burrowless Savage. We're playing zombies. Very easy to make level 8 synchros. One Herald of the Arclight. If I had to cut something in the extra deck, it would be Chaos, not Chaos, Herald of the Arclight and Avenged Savior, but more leaning more towards the Herald of the Arclight. Herald of the Arclight is pretty difficult to make in this deck, but it's not impossible. If you have like maybe 1 or 2 extenders while you're doing the normal play, or you already have a way to get Glow Up Bloom onto field, what you can do is you can do some, of course, just like Link Cross shenanigans with a Martial Metal March, all that sort of thing. But Herald's pretty impractical. I'm starting to wonder why I'm even playing this card right now, actually. Yeah, but this is definitely a very cuttable card. You could probably throw in maybe like an Axis Code or a Yukiona, but we'll be going over potential cards that you can include later on. One Martial Metal Marcher because Glow Up Bloom is a tuner and this card's fucking cracked. And Formula Synchron because the Link Cross stuff. Draw a card. All is good. All is well. So let's go into the side deck. The side deck is obviously very tentative to change. Play side for your locals, blah 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 blah. Side for the meta. Let's go for the going second cards. 1 Driver, 3 Gamma. A Psychic Warrior that rides into battle. Psychic Soldier, whatever. Gamma is just the catch-all best hand trap outside of Nibiru or Imperm. I would be main decking it, but I don't have the space. 1 Pancratops, good going second card. Just amazing overall. You could probably, if you really wanted to, you could cut out the Gammas and the Driver for cards like Zoo King Alpha, if you want to have more Pancratops-like effects, but that's just me. 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, because we lose to anything named Mystic Mine, and 3 Cosmic. We're not playing Twin Twister because I feel that this is a format where sort of every card counts, and it's not something where it's like Salamangreat or Sky Striker or Orcus format. You can sort of afford that discard. Like, we can use our graveyard we can discard cards like Mizuki, obviously, and it'll basically just be like, nothing happened, and we'll actually be up because we've got a Mizuki out of our hand. But the issue is that those sort of cases are not very common, and I just feel the Cosmic Cyclone is usually just the best catch-all card. 2 Forbidden Droplet would be running 3, but we don't have the space. Forbidden Droplet is sort of like our blind second board breaking tool. It does have a lot of very practical application against a lot of meta cards. So, like, against the Buster Savage Lock. Honestly, this deck plays very well against the Buster Savage Lock. Just because we have so many, main deck monsters that either after droplets, or even before droplets, like Baylor Jock, we could just run over their monsters, or we just have ways of getting our opponent's monsters off the board by just like by battle, or with Baylor Jock. So I really like Droplet in this deck, but if you wanted to shave some cards, I would definitely be looking at Droplet, or to make some adjustments. Triple Solemn Judgment. This deck has zombies just in general they don't have the best way of playing around back row. So you kind of maybe just lose to a random Raigeki. It's happened to me so many times against, just like when I'm playing against scrubs from my university, and they'll just like drop a Raigeki in their 6 Sam deck, and I'm just like, well, I guess I'll just lose my board because then I'll like Baylor Jock, like Vampire Sucker pass, because this deck sucks. It doesn't actually suck, it's playable. But yeah, Solemn Judgment just it's sort of like a patchwork solution for fixing some of the inherent issues that this deck has. I would main deck it, but we don't have the space. And 1 Imperial Order. You may be wondering why we're playing Imperial Order in a deck where we need a field spell to do anything. Look here. We lose to Sky Striker pretty badly. We need Imperial Order to beat Sky Striker. That's basically it. We just Imperial Order is just for a Sky Striker matchup, or Maybe if you really, really need to like not lose to Vylons. So that's more or less it. If you want to make some adjustments, here are some of my recommendations that you can put in. So here are some of the potential changes that, if you're looking down the road to make some adjustments, here's where I would start out. Twin Twister, like I said earlier, in more control-based slower formats, you can play a Twin Twister to just pitch those random good stuff zombies out of your hand, etc., etc., etc. Super Poly. Super Poly is a very interesting card. I don't like it in the sense of where you kind of need Zombie World to be on the field for this card to be good. And yeah, that's basically it. Like I don't like where you need Zombie World to be on the board for this card to be good, but I guess it Super Poly under Zombie World is like always going to be one of the most cracked things of all time. This card also does out Dragoon, so if you are finding that a lot of more people, like even more than now, like a format where it's literally just AirPods Dragoon, Super Poly is a very nice card for that sort of format, being that a lot of your monsters are darks and Verte is a dark. Card Destruction. I really like this card, but it's not very practical most of the time. Mainly just because you won't really draw into it, and probably like half of the time your hands won't be very graveyard centric enough to, or like graveyards, yeah, like graveyard focused, I guess, to just like justify just like dumping everything. Because usually you'll have like your zombie world, you have like maybe one or two normal summons, and like center and like card destruction, and you're just like, I kind of don't want to dump my hand. So that's some of the issues that I do take with zombie world. One for one. Just an additional way to just pitch cards out of your hand, grab your glow up bloom. This was a lot better when glow up bulb was a card, but if your only target is bloom in this deck, like it's not amazing. It does technically act as an extender, blah blah blah, but it really sucks when you're going second and you're main decking this card. So just keep that in mind. We're on one Caligo Claw Crow. I saw this as an extender. If you control a dark monster, you can special summon this from your hand. It's kind of cute. We're just sort of entering the cute extenders territory right now. So, yes, a lot of our monsters are darks. Yes, like Unizombie plus Caligo Claw Crow is FTK, blah, blah, blah. How come 5x go brr? But I generally don't. I very much favor tuner extenders over just generic normal extenders, because it's very easy to you could just literally play virtually anything to be like a normal extender. Just good tuner extenders are very difficult to find. But if you want to play like maybe like a 60 card variant and you want to just cram in a shit ton of extenders, Caligo Claw Crow is pretty nice. Speaking of tons of extenders, we got Dangers. Dangers add a nice element of just the same thing as I said with like card destruction and one for one, just like getting rid of cards in your hand, putting bodies on the board, drawing one, all that sort of good stuff. Which is why we've also got Curious in here. The issue is that all the good Dangers are limited, and I don't feel like dedicating just like 4 main deck spots into just sacky kind of bad extenders. Like when you look at cards like Nessie, Tsushinoko, like all those sort of cards, you ran like 6 or like 8 or like 10 of those just because you always wanted to keep drawing and cycling, because you could just keep going and going and going. With those cards being limited, you can't, the engine stops very, very quickly, and you can't really open up just like a ton of Dangers and then just like cycle, which is why I'm not really main decking the Dangers anymore. We have Cockle-Doodle-Doo, tuner extender. It's funny. If you're cutting space in the main deck, or like you don't want to play with the rocket engine, put in Cockle-Doodle-Doo. It's a great tuner extender. Yeah. Parallel Exceed is another pretty cute card. It does represent 2 bodies on the board, which is very nice, and it's a very good extender, but I just want to play a more control-focused build. I just want this deck to just be very control-y, very just like, just play the resource game, and I don't want to have to clog on like 40 extenders and just sort of like sit there with my dick in my hand and just be like, what the hell do I do with this? And we got the one Vampire Fraulein. This was a card where you could technically search it off Glow Up Bloom, and it would be a great way to like beat over stuff. The problem is that this card kind of sucks. What it does is that you can pay life points in multiples of 100 in order to boost your monsters attack and defense during damage calc by the amount you paid, up to 3,000. And it was a great way to go for like OTKs or just beating over stuff. But if I'm gonna be sending Glow Bloom, I want my Baylor Jock or Boolin. I don't really want to see Fraulein. And Fraulein, yeah, because like Fraulein sucks. Like, wow, I have a 2,000 defensive booty that can boost my monsters when I'm losing. Ah, very cool, Kanye. It's not very good. Just overall. We have White Aura Bahamut. This is technically makeable. So here's my crackhead solution for how you can make this. You banish Mizuki. You have Baylor Jock on board. You banish Mizuki. Special summon Formula Synchron from your graveyard. After you've used up both your Baylor Jocks, Formula Synchron into Bahamut. Because it is a tuner synchro monster. It's a level 10. And 2 plus 8 equals 10. And it's something you can technically make. Is it good to make? No. Is it funny? Yeah. Yeah, it's just one of those cards. Like, if you really want to run it, you can run it. But like if you just want to like mess around, like it's something that's technically doable, but I wouldn't recommend it. But it's funny. Barricade Board Blocker. Space in the main deck is way too tight. I should probably actually just cut the Herald for this. Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, why don't I cut Herald for this? Anyways, Barricade Board Blocker. Just field spell protection, just a way to get a card out of your hand. Very nice. Yeah, fuck Herald. Herald sucks. So put that in. Yeah, just Barricade Board Blocker, just a way to get a card out of your hand without having to have any main deck investment. It's of course very quote unquote targeted in what you can discard. Yeah, just overall very nice card. One Curious, a Lightsworn minion, like I said earlier, if you are playing the Dangers, like if those cards ever do happen to come back for some godforsaken reason, Curious is obviously a very nice inclusion, but right now it's not very practical to make all the time. I got one Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. Baylor Jock is a level 7 or higher monster, so you can make this. A lot of decks don't really have an out to this card, which is, it's still funny. I mean, it is literally just Dragoon without the negate. So, hey, it's pretty nice. Pretty good card. We got Yuki Onna, the Absolute Zero Mayakashi. This card is really interesting. I really like this card, but I just hate how specific how its activation is, or how you need to trigger this effect. So if a monster is special summoned from the graveyard, or a monster effect is activated in the graveyard, I can target another face-up monster on the board, reduce its attack points to 0, and negate its effects. The problem, and it's a twice per turn. The problem is that you yourself aren't really going to be able to trigger this whenever you want it. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. This could be like an Appaloosa. Yeah, I guess Appaloosa is also like another card for just like getting a bunch of stuff from the field to the graveyard. Appaloosa is of course just like good. It's Appaloosa. There's nothing you can't really go wrong with this card. Very good card overall. But yeah, Yuki Onna. It's a cute card, but just doesn't have much practical application unless like maybe there's a very graveyard centric format like Orchist. I'm not sure. Like Yuki Onna is just, it's a card that seems very nice, but 9 times out of 10 you just won't really want to be running it, or like you just won't have a great target for its negation effect. But it does trigger Baylor Jock, which is kind of funny. And of course Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker, you know, it's Access Code. OTK City. And if you want one more tuner extender that I couldn't fit into the side deck because, you know, I cannot format this very correctly, is Instant Fusion. Sea Monster of Theseus, and obviously like Thousand Eyes, Millennium Eyes Restrict, in case you just want to keep going through your plays without having to worry about getting hand trapped. Just a very good card. It does require a lot of extra deck investment, which is why I'm not running it, because in this very specific build that I've sort of cooked up, the extra deck space is pretty tight. But if you do need the extender, or like you just want to keep putting in extenders or playing some 60 card variant, Instant Fusion is like a great way to do it. And of course there are things like Lightsworns and like Monster Gate and like all that sort of stuff, but just like don't worry about it. We're playing good old pure zombies. So let's talk about the pros and cons about this deck. So the pros about this deck is that Zombie World and Rivalry are pretty fucking busted. Like I said earlier, you can win games virtually entirely on the back of this card, on these cards, and a lot of meta decks just aren't very well equipped to deal with just like a zombie world that they have to always continually deal with. Two, Doom King Balerdrock represents arguably the best resource trading you could possibly do. So obviously there's obviously going to be like 12 negate pendulum boards and like always stuff like that. But the problem is, as well as like Dragon Link boards, the problem is like once those boards are broken, they can only really OTK you beyond that. The thing with Balerdrock is you can keep recurring it, and you'll always have that two for one deal with its banish and its negate, and you can still OTK, which is something that I find very, very nice for this deck. And three, I mean, have you seen Banshee? She's pretty cute. I would simp. Just kidding. Three is just that zombies are cool. It's a very nice, fun way to just break up the monotony of the meta. It puts a lot of new stuff. You can play a lot of the new stuff in zombies rather than a lot of the old, much slower variants. Yeah, zombies is a very enjoyable combo deck to play in this format, and I very much like it compared to something like Salamangreat or like Madolche. And the cons. Oh boy, the cons. One, this deck is very, very hand trap weak. In an ideal universe, we would be playing like Nobleman a Crossout when that comes out, Prohibition, Call, Nibiru, like that sort of garbage. But the problem is that like unless you open extenders, and by extender I mean Monster Reborn, I guess, or Quick Launch, you're kind of sitting there dead in the water if you get like negated on Yuta Zombie. That's always been an issue for zombies where you've just never been able to extend past the normal summon if it does get negated, and you kind of would just have to like sit your hand past. This can be of course remedied by playing more and more extenders, but then you're sort of just playing a bad combo deck rather than control zombies, which is what this deck mainly is for. I'm trying to play control zombies, not combo zombies that just ends on a worse Dragon Link board and is much more heavy investment. Two, this deck has really bad this deck just has really bad issues when it comes to dealing with back row. The issue is that the way how zombie cards were designed was that they kind of just fold to anything named like Raigeki Break or MST. Balerdrock is not an Omni Negate. You lose to right. None of their monsters really have any protection. So yeah, you are going to be losing to back row quite a lot. Especially Mystic Mine. Like, holy shit, fuck Mystic Mine. That card is so bad. Like, you literally see someone slap down a Mystic Mine, and you're just kind of fucked. Like, you cannot play against it. Like, you do not win against a Mystic Mine if they just decide to try and, like, deck you out. And three, is there anything bad about this deck? Yeah, I guess you could say that it's technically just a more worse Salamangreat. Because even though it is very fun and like intuitive to play, there's a lot of fun combos. The issue is that like when you look at decks like Salamangreat or Madolche, these sort of like or Orcus, these sort of like combo control mid-range decks, you just sort of look at zombies has always just been that weird kid in the corner, just like screaming his head off because, you know, zombies kind of suck. And like I said earlier, a lot of zombie cards are pretty bad. Like, you can't really do anything with Banshee. You can't really do anything with Mizuki. You can't really do anything with Bloom. There's just... Most zombie cards are pretty good in a vacuum, but when you put them in, like, an actual game state, or, like, put them in, like, a tournament, or just, like, where you're going against, like, hand traps and all these sort of things, and like, you have to deal with interaction, zombies are pretty shit. Like, that's just sort of the deal you have to live with. So overall, I find that Zombies is just a very, very fun deck. It's very fun. It's got a lot of intuitive stuff. There's a lot of like degenerate shit that you can do with this. You could take this to like full combo town and just like FTK your opponent or just like garbage like that. But I really like the control aspect that Control Zombies has. And yeah, I would definitely recommend picking up this deck or playing this deck Don't buy cards. We're in a pandemic. I would definitely recommend playing this deck in a world where, you know, maybe the format's a bit slower, or you know, you just want to have some fun. Just play with your zombies. But yeah, I would give this deck like glowing reviews. I love it. And of course, before we sign off, be sure to check out my streams. If you are not currently subscribed, please do. I need friends. I have no friends. I just want 100,000 subs for a silver play button. Follow me on Twitch. All of that sort of link below. Please subscribe, like, blah 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 blah. Thank you so much. And until next time, see you later.